Really quick, kind of just to get us back into the mode and the swing of things. Did anybody have any questions that came up over lunch or things that you thought about to kind of get us back into the mode of things? I cleaned up a bunch of the plates and cups, but had them spread out all over the place. What we do inside of Adilas is once you start creating those objects, guess what? We're stacking and recording all those pieces of information, and then we link them together to help you do some of your business flow and your concepts. Any questions over lunch or any comments or anything? Awesome. The other Shannon. Shannon, what's your last name?
Foreman.
Foreman? Shannon Foreman. And she's out of Denver and she has a service business, correct? Okay. Let's go ahead and also I'll preface this. I think Shannon got signed up with Adilas, and I'm not sure of the expectations or what was going on, but she's like, doggone it, I need to be able to do this, but I'm not sure if anybody really helped her. So what we're going to try to do is see if we can kind of help field some questions. Is that fair to say, Shannon?
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. I'll go ahead and turn it over to you, and whether it's questions or whatever, and we'll try to help field them. All righty?
Okay, so I have a lot of questions, so how do you want me to start?
Basically, I would start where your pain is. Where's your pain?
I have many things. Okay, so first thing, how do I add my bank running total to match what it should be in my bank account?
Okay, so that's a great question. So basically what happens is there's an entity in Adilas, it's called a bank, okay? Now, I'm going to actually...
That sounds like I don't know what you're saying.
Well, here's what happens, okay? Is the bank brand spanking new and we have all of the details? Or is it like there's tons of water under the bridge and we just want to start it?
It's both.
Okay, so just so you know, that actually creates different scenarios, okay? So if it's brand new blank out of the box, I would actually be putting in the underlying pieces to support it. If I have years and years of data behind me, and I'm like, okay, I want to actually bring this up to speed, what happens is you literally have to almost draw a line in the sand. As of July 1, I need to know what the banks that I had, I need to know what my outstandings were, and then I can proceed from there. So it's not a cut, dry thing. So let me give you an example, okay? So let's say that the bank wanted to start July 1, and according to the bank, I had $3,000 in there, okay? Well, you need to know, okay, what else was outstanding that was potentially already written that hadn't quite made it yet? Like there's a bunch of pieces that, so what we do is we help you draw a line in the sand, and then you line up everything. You have to kind of fictitiously line it up to that line, and then once it's running, then it will start running forward, okay? That is a wonderful question. We're actually dealing with banks. Are you okay if we kind of go in there?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
You know, it's all like...
Perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm currently on the My Favorites page. I'm going to scroll all the way down to the thing that says Other Home Pages and one that says Bank Homepage. Looks like I already have the permission. I'm ready to go. And currently we have one little bank, okay? Looks like we actually have a negative balance right now, which I'll bet you if I actually viewed the register, it probably started at 0, and we wrote an expense to Dan yesterday for $500. Okay? So if I look at the register, just really quick, guess what it's going to say? Expense receipt number 1 to Danny Schufer, $500, but we started at 0, and then we already wrote a check, so that's why it's negative. Okay? So I'm just going to show you where we're entering the field at. So I'm going to go back when I just quickly just clicked on the actual register link. So under the bank homepage right here, I'm going to physically click on this piece of the puzzle here. You know, what it was is the name of the bank. This is where you have all of your information, and there's a little thing right here that says starting balance. Okay? So if we wanted to say, hey, I'm starting at $3,000 and I've got all my, here's where it gets a little tricky. I can plug in a number right here, no problem. The problem is what else is potentially out that hasn't really been reconciled yet. The 3,000 is easy. Shannon, it could be right here like this. 300, edit that bank, okay, boom. So all of a sudden, check out what my running total is, okay. I plugged $3,000, and it says, whoa, I saw one expense for $500, I'm now at $2,500, okay. I just wanted to show you, that's how you can plug the starting number. The place that this gets a little bit funky is if you have a whole bunch of things that have kind of happened, and then, but they haven't really happened yet. Like, it's called outstandings, okay? So say I actually have a deposit and I put it in the mail and I mail it to the bank. Say I'm not really right there. Well, guess what? The Adilas system says I got money. The bank has zero clue for potentially a couple days, and all of a sudden they now say you have money. So technically, depending on where your line is drawn, there may be a gap there. It's time. It's once again, it's come back down to time. Here's another, on the expense side, this happens all the time. Say I have a whole bunch of people, very similar to you, and they're reps, okay, or your temporary people that you're actually training, okay. I send out 20 checks to all my different little people. Well, inside of my thing, what I do is I say, I record that out of bank, out of bank, out of bank, out of bank, out of bank. However, the bank may not see that, and it may be totally different times that it happens, okay? This one sees it immediately. They wanted to cash their check. This one held on to it for a month. Does that kind of make sense how you have to kind of account for that, especially where the magic line is. Once you get the magic line drawn, that'll just that's just normal process, okay? That just kind of happens as far as like, I saw it, and finally a couple days later the bank sees it, or whatever the time frame is. Yes?
So I would just go figure out your line like the beginning of the year. I would get your last bank statement from the end of last year. Most people do that line on the year because you may have had a trial balance and money coming in from last year, whatever accounting system you have. So plug it in for this year forward. So you would just pick up, if you want to pick May's bank statement, pick a bank statement because that's going to tell you where everything is at. And then you basically go into your expense receipts, figure out the difference, and put in an expense. You have to like plug in the numbers in your cost of goods and your, I don't know if that pertains to you, but in all your areas to get it right. Does that make sense?
What we call this is basically a fictitious floor. Okay, she's literally talking about physical. I want to balance, 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 and where you're like, oh my goodness, how do I even get this thing started? Get the thing started, and then figure out where your magic line is going to be. Okay.
I guess that wasn't my question. My question was how to reconcile your expenses in your bank to this.
Okay, awesome. Roxanne, you do tons of this.
I know. I thought it was more like how do I get my running balance right, but
okay, but
reconciling, yeah.
I mean, it's similar, but just
So so if you don't have the right number to begin with, like say you started using Adilas in July, and March, but you were operating in January, February, maybe even last year. Okay, so you started brand new. So you have a brand new. Okay. That's easy.
So you just need your existing.
I just think something makes sense because nothing makes sense right now. Okay,
So,
and then expenses. Another thing, I didn't know you had to like title everything, whatever your expense was, like the hydro store for scissors or whatever. So I was putting everything in as a Wells Fargo credit card expense, and then come to find out you're not supposed to do that. Is that correct?
Well, it depends on what's going on, okay? So as soon as you said I'm paying with it by a credit card,
right.
Technically what's going on is instead of saying I'm going to this vendor and I'm going to do this, you're basically, eventually you owe Wells Fargo, even though you bought it from Walmart,
right.
Okay? So what it is, and it's not a big deal, but that's a great, we do the same thing, okay? If I have a Visa card right here, and this is my expense card, guess what I'm going to do? It's going to go to Pueblo Bank and Trust, and then in the notes I'm going to put, hey, I bought some stuff at the Moose's Lodge for guys for the lunch, okay? And then basically, instead of actually putting a payment on it, how I like to do it is I'm going to say that was actually on account. Even though I physically paid for it.
You got to go back and click every single one when you pay a credit card statement.
Okay, so let's do a scenario. How would you recommend that you run it? Like okay, so here's.
So I'm here.
Okay, no problem. This is great. This is perfect. Okay, so how do you do that?
Right.
What I would propose that if you have an expense card like this, okay, and I'm holding up a little Visa card right here, okay, so this one's the Pueblo Bank and Trust out of Colorado. What I would do is I would create a vendor called Pueblo Bank and Trust. Anything that I buy that goes on this particular card, so say I'm paying for gas on my trip out here, and I'm paying for meals for the Adilas lunch, and I'm paying for this, and I bought something online. Like every single thing goes to Pueblo Bank and Trust at a zero or on account because basically I'm going to eventually have to pay them back.
Right.
And then when you actually decide to pay something, it'll just keep adding up. So literally it's in the background, it's just going bloop, 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 bloop. It just keeps adding up. Then you're like, wow, I'm not going to pay off that whole thing. I'm only going to throw $250 towards it. So what you do is you would go to the payables section and you say, I'm going to apply $250. So what it does is it slowly starts solving or relieving the pressure off of those different ones that you made. Okay? And you do click it, but what it does is it rolls it all together Are you okay, Shannon, if I kind of do an analogy?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Here's the analogy, guys. Okay. I'm standing up. We're going to use some papers and plates, but just so you can kind of see where I'm going to set up an analogy very similar to this. Okay. Here's how I run it if I'm doing my own credit cards and expenses. Okay. So the first thing I needed is a vendor. Pueblo Bank and Trust. This is my credit card piece. I'm going to actually kind of stick it there because that's what I'm charging. Okay, now the next thing that happens is I make another expense and I actually go get some lunch for Adilas, okay? And I put it on account. So this little thing right here is 20 bucks for a lunch for Adilas, okay? What it does is it just kind of sits there. It says it's on account. It's tied to this vendor. This vendor's what we owe them is slowly starting to add up because we're doing these things. Here's the next thing we go and buy. All of a sudden we're online and we're like, oh man, it'd be really cool if we had a printer, okay? So I go make another expense and I say Pueblo Bank and Trust and I bought some little items, whatever it is. And eventually I say on account. So automatically here's kind of what's happening, okay? Like I'm starting, it's still tied to that vendor, but I'm slowly stacking it up. These are pieces that I owe. Oh, now I'm going to go buy something else. Let's say that this one was a couple $100, okay? So anyway, I keep going, and eventually what I say again is that I'm just going to put it on account. When I get to the total end of this thing, all of a sudden I'm kind of having to hold it. But does that make sense how we owe a bunch of stuff back to that particular credit card company? I may have bought this from McDonald's, and this one was from Chevron, and this one was from whatever, okay? That's not actually who I'm paying. I actually owe Pueblo Bank and Trust. Okay, so what ends up happening, and what could have happened, you could have totally been saying, hey, I'm going to write this one to Chevron, and I'm going to write this one to, oh crap, now how do I go back? Like, this is how I would have ran it. I would have ran the whole thing to Pueblo.
Well, that's how I had it, and then when I did call somebody's tray, and they were like, no, you need to take all that out and you need to change it.
It's preference.
Yeah,
So it changes to
How
how
they do it.
there are multiple ways you can do it, and Roxanne, I'll probably actually call on you in just a second, but I wanted to show you what ends up happening. Now, in order to pay that off, what if I actually said, I want to cut one check? And let's pretend that these are still loaded documents right here. I've got whatever I owe to Pueblo Bank and Trust, okay? So technically, they're all sitting there totally happy. They're like, hey, I'm on account, I'm on account, I'm on account. And this is just slowly adding up. That's called an accounts payable, okay? So what I want to do is say I created a new expense. This is a brand spanking new one. And I say, I am going to now pay Pueblo Bank and Trust, and I'm going to add a line item saying I'm going to pay off some existing stuff that's already existed there, and I'm going to cut one giant check, okay? So one giant check, and now I'm going to grab all of these other pieces and pretend that all the cups were on them, so it would literally kind of look like this. So they were stacked, okay? So this one check is now going to start paying off pieces of this. But if you didn't want to pay off your whole credit card, guess what you would do? Well, guess what? You still need to sit there, keep waiting, because I didn't have enough money to pay you all off. But what happens is these two little guys right here end up getting a ride on this. If I was going to show you an analogy, think of a car transport truck, okay? So you've seen them. You drive on the road all the time, okay? It's a big, huge truck, and it has 6 or 7 different cars sitting on the back of it. Well, each one of those cars are an independent little item. This was the 20 bucks for the meal. This was the XYZ for this. But think of that transport truck that's actually holding 20 different little cars that are virtually their own little vehicles. But it's carrying them, the whole thing. That's why I brought this big tray. So we have one new expense that's going to end up paying for multiple other little sub-pieces, okay? That's kind of how we use an object model to kind of pay that type of thing off. Okay?
Can you show me like how to do that in this?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
I just created 3 expenses.
Oh, wow, sweet. Roxanne, you are a rock star. No pun intended, right? Actually, rock star books right there. Okay, so let's jump in here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the expense receipt homepage. We'll take a look at what we have. Oh my goodness, this is awesome.
Just refresh.
We have a master user right here. I'm going to click refresh just a second. So she didn't have the little line item. Looks like we have one small disconnect there. That's minor.
I know, I was trying to fix my last page, but...
No problem. So check this out. She created a vendor called Pueblo Bank and Trust, just like my plate with the credit card on it, okay? And then I can see right here, see these flags? It says unpaid, 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 unpaid. And I can see over here, nothing's been verified. There's no payments. There's no nothing going on. Let's actually see what we have going on. $300 printable. What do we got here? Pueblo Bank and Trust, $300. Supplies. Okay, she just categorized it as I don't know right now. It's just a general thing. On account, $300 we still owe. Piece of cake.
So I would have put like supplies for this, or trash bags for that, or your notes from Home Depot purchase with this, or your specific, because you're only putting it to the bank. So put all your specific in the notes.
Okay, awesome. So check this out. Here's another one. Pueblo Bank Trust, $25. I'm not sure again because we haven't even got to the point of actually categorizing them. But basically, she's creating these expense receipts. She's creating those 3 little plates that we have basically stacked up. 0 on account. I still owe Pueblo Bank and Trust 25 bones. Okay, I'm going to go back one more time, and we're going to check out this other one right here. Click Edit. So here's once again the vendors Pueblo Bank and Trust, $245. Looks like we're just slightly off just a little bit. So right here, because it's off a little bit, it actually, she may have actually been doing this for a prep, okay? So if I was ready to pay this off and I went and I didn't even know that it was off, guess what? It would actually flag me when I try to pay it off, okay? Because technically we have a discount. This says $245.92, and technically I only have $245, okay? So it's saying, hey, you still owe me $245.92. Doing the total math from the thing. Okay, so that's great. We technically have, let's not fix it yet.
Oh,
okay,
I was
let's
like,
not fix it yet.
line.
Okay, it's great, it's great. I want to show you that it's perfect. So here's what we're going to do. We've loaded that thing. We just bought on our credit card, bought on our credit card, bought on our credit card. We put everything on account. Even though we physically paid for it, we have a receipt, we can scan all that stuff in. Technically, I still owe Pueblo Bank and Trust.
Technically, can't you just mark it off as paid though?
Okay, so it depends
Right, when
on...
you enter it?
So I know some people who will actually set up a bank for their credit card and run it negative, 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 and then when they actually pay it, they'll virtually do a deposit towards that, which they can run it that way. There's multiple ways you could play the game. This is how I like to play the game.
I would
Okay.
play it that way too. I put it on account. That way, once you go in, watch when he goes to his tables and does it, it's so simple, and you're going to pay to the penny what you want on that statement.
Yep.
And you could even pay like, say,
Partials.
Partial. So if I show you that.
Okay,
The
so
next step.
to get a scenario where we want it to go, we have the vendor, Pueblo Bank and Trust. We have 3 expense receipts that Roxanne created behind the scenes. We had some trash and some this and some of that. Basically, we bought some stuff with the credit card. We're now it's now time to go make a payment for that, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our main homepage. I'm going to go down to expense receipts and come to this spot that says payables homepage. And I'm going to click on it. Okay, so automatically where I'm looking is in this term called splits, okay? Pueblo Bank and Trust.
All your transactions, or is it
Anything you owe anybody.
We've been playing tons and tons and tons in POs, okay, all throughout this training environment.
Even that homepage that you're looking at, that's really not the homepage that you have to use. There's so many different.
Oh yeah. There's tons of different interfaces to get there.
Yeah, I chose one. I'm just, so for instance, mine says I owe people money and I don't. So I'm like, how did that get there?
Okay, so basically what it is the system is super stupid, and if you don't tell it what to do, it'll literally say, okay, guess I'm supposed to hold this value for a while. Like, it doesn't know what you did. And in order to make that correct, all you need to do is just go in and be like, oh, I actually got you paid. And you kind of back reconcile it type thing to figure it out. Before we go into there, we just did the scenario, and you can see right here, $570.92. If I click on this value for Pueblo Bank and Trust, it will actually start giving me the expense number, any sort of. Now look at this one. See how it has like a little checkbox that is not correct? See how I cannot click on that checkbox, but I can click on that one and that one? Okay, instantly, in my mind, because it's kind of saying, whoa, 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 that's basically saying, you need to check something out here. Something potentially may not be right, okay? See how I can't click on it? So immediately I would fly right over here, and I'd go edit, and I'd be like, okay, what do we have going on? What's this check math? I'd check vendor, I'd check dates, I'd check math. I'd come down, what do we have? Okay, sweet, looks like we got some stuff from Home Depot. I put it on account, that's correct. Okay, where's the problem? Here's the problem. 245 and 245.92, there's a problem. So I would go here, edit main. Once you learn how to tweak these things, you can change them. So I would come here and it says, hey, guess what? Here's what your line items show that it is. Is that the correct value? And if that's correct, you just modify it. Bloop, just like that. and say edit.
Okay, real quick, what if it was reverse? What if that was the wrong and you owed that 92 cents?
It was,
Okay, so
but we're just making.
no problem. Watch this. Watch this. Let's do it. I'll show you. We'll back it right back up. So 92, and so this is where it was. Like technically, this was the real amount, but this one was wrong. So where would I change it? In the line item. Okay, this is the piece that's a problem. Oh, actually, I need to add 92 cents there. My bad. Sorry.
And that's why too, if you make them specific notes, then you don't have to go back looking for your receipt. I mean, or your statement or whatever else, you'll know like it was $245.92.
Or when you're at the store, you could photocopy your receipt, email it to you, and then enter it into the system.
There's tons of different ways if you want to, like, your photos and your scans are not required at all. If you want to play to that level, you can definitely scan it, okay? So we just fixed it back. All we had to do is fix the line item now instead of editing the main. Now, some people are like, why doesn't it automatically just do that for me? Okay, so here's what ends up happening. What happens is, say that you were actually tweaking some stuff around and you got distracted and you didn't finish. If we automatically matched it every single time, you would never know that it was off. Ever. So purposely, on purpose, this is a 100% physical decision made by Adilas saying, if you're adding something, you can add and add and add and add and add. If you have it right in front of you, you're just going to be plunking it in, and if everything's good to go, it'll fly. If it's not good to go and it doesn't match, it automatically kind of goes, I have a problem. Okay? So watch this one more time. I'm going to actually, this particular expense is number 2. Because it's happy now, if I go back here to the expense receipt homepage, I don't have any frowny faces, I don't have any problems. If I go back here and tweak it out so it's in the wrong scenario one more time, so say it was still kind of wrong, and I say edit that line item, what I want to do is I want to go back to the expense receipt homepage and show you, like it's trying to flag you. Whoa, 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 I got a problem, I got a problem. This flag basically says, hey, you need to help me out. I need some additional loving. It's kind of what it's asking for. Okay? And it also showed you when we were on that payables homepage, the little box was grayed out. You couldn't even play because it's like, I don't even know which is my real value yet. So it's kind of, it gets confused. So what we do is we basically say, we'll kind of lightly flag it for you. Okay? A future development in Adilas, this does not exist right now, but this is where we would like it to get. But imagine if we actually ran a report that said, can you show me where my problems are? Because we have all of the data, wouldn't it be cool if we're like, oh, you actually need to go check this. Like, basically imagine looking at a road and you're driving and you're like, report, where's everybody at? Oh, that car's over in the ditch. Like, all of a sudden, you're going to go pay some attention to that because it will flag you and let you know. That's a future development that where we'd like to go, but we already are grabbing a bunch of that data. Okay? So, I'm going to actually fix this run right now so we can actually play it again, okay? I know we've gone back and forth. This is the real value. I need to fix the line item. I'm going to click it and change it. One thing that I did want to let you know, just because we've been changing this tons and tons of times, watch this. Every single change that happened, oh, looks like Debbie actually was doing something. Oh, Debbie was online. Not this Debbie, the other Debbie. Hello, Debbie online. Okay, but basically we're tracking who's touching it, okay? It helps if we ever needed to go back.